Good morning. Good morning is a teaching. Good morning is the teaching. Because when we say good morning, everybody, this shows everybody wants to be good. Good morning. Should be good in the morning. Should be good after lunch. Should be good afternoon. Nobody says bad morning, bad afternoon. We do say, I had a bad morning, but normally you don't greet each other by saying bad morning, right? So all these pleasantries and exchanges of saying good morning, then also look at your name. Everybody tries to get a good name. Ram, Shyam, Mary, Jesus, whatever, good name. Nobody tries to get a name called ghost or devil or things like that. So this itself is a teaching. And in fact, in tantric practice, there is at a certain point, the Lama gives you a name. And then the Lama would say that as and when I call you by this name, you should imagine you experience great bliss and happiness, something like that. So we should employ all kinds of methods and techniques to lead us to the path of the Dharma. So when you're called by your name, then you have a good name, I know. So then what you need to think is, I need to live my life which is befitting to my name. If you have a name like a Devta or God or Buddha or something like that, but you live like a devil, then that is not matching the name. And you greet others by saying good morning, but you end up doing all the bad things, then it will be bad morning, bad evening, not good morning, right? So we should do the real Dharma practice, not just the ceremonial part. As ordinary beings, we are very fond of the ceremonial part, the show business, the rituals, the prayers, visiting the temple, early in the morning, visit temple, throw 2-3 flowers, ring the bell, and the rest of the day you engage in corruption, cheating, There's no Dharma. There's no Dharma. We all say, I believe in God, but we have no idea what God wants from us. Or if you say, I believe in Buddha, you don't think about what the Buddha wants from us. You see, there's so much hypocrisy because of lack of knowledge, awareness, right? In the name of a so-called God or Buddha or somebody, which may be there at a particular time, which is not here right now with us, but in the name of that God or something, you are ready to kill that person who is sitting and breathing in front of you. What is this religion? What kind of religion is this? This is all hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, If you are somebody who believes in somebody out there, about which, honestly speaking, you don't have much idea, then first, the path to reach there is these people. Don't think they're useless or uneducated or poor, no. How can you develop compassion? You develop compassion by saying,
May all these sentient beings are without suffering. In relation to sentient beings, you develop loving kindness by saying, may all these sentient beings meet with happiness. You practice patience in relation to these people. You can't practice patience or develop compassion and loving kindness in empty, right? So these sentient beings, whether they have the motivation to benefit you or not, but they are very kind in that sense. They are your teacher. They are your guru. It's very important. Why we pay so much respect to the respect or so much, we have so much fondness to money. Why? Not because the money has a wish to benefit you. Because you get the benefit. Therefore you pay a lot of regard to the money. So similarly, whether other people have an intention to benefit or no, that is not important. What is important is you do get benefit from these people. And you can't live in isolation. You have to live with people, you see. So the best of living with people is understanding their need, respecting them, not unnecessarily judging, and not trying to fit everybody in your way of thinking, your lifestyle. Respecting them is very, very important. And that's why in this particular text, Shantideva says, there is no way you can, apart from pleasing the sentient beings, there's no way you can please the Buddha. If you want to please the Buddha, if you want to make the Buddha happy, the only way to make the Buddha happy is make human beings or sentient beings happy. Please them. A very famous, another Tibetan teacher, Gamboba, who was a direct disciple of the famous teacher Milarepa, he has written a short text called Precious Garland of the Supreme Path. Precious Garland of the Supreme Path. Where he says, if you have so much liking to a woman, you like very much a mother or a woman, but you don't hesitate in exploiting the girl, the boy or the girl or the child of that woman. Okay, for example, if you cut a piece of flesh from the leg of that child and give it to the mother, will she be happy? She will be horrified. So similarly, we keep on cheating, exploiting, bullying people, then go to the temple as if you are a great practitioner. This is hypocrisy. This is hypocrisy. Right? So the first thing, the first game of the lesson is we need to learn to live harmoniously, happily, help each other, be nice to each other. We are not going to live here forever. Right? So wherever you go, you become a contributing member of the society. That's very, very important. That is the only way to change the world. Especially giving such kind of education to the younger generation is very, very important. Right? In the Sutra Alamkara, there is a verse where it says that Buddha is somebody who has compassion towards all sentient beings. And it is because of this, he is always thinking, how can I make these sentient beings meet with loving kindness? How can I help these sentient beings separated from suffering? That means development of compassion. And how can I ensure that they continue to enjoy happiness? That is limitless joy. And how can I increase their happiness? That is practice of equanimity. So the Buddha is, with his compassion, always thinking about how to make these four immeasurable practices available to the people, that they meet with, that they develop loving kindness, that they are free from suffering and develop compassion, that the happiness that they have, never be separated, things like that, right? Okay, so it's wonderful that we are here again to read this precious text. So let us continue reading the text. We were reading verse number 15. Okay, verse number 15. In brief, the awakening mind should be understood to be of two types: the mind that aspires to awaken and the mind that ventures to do so. I briefly explained it yesterday. The wish to go to Meglorganj and actual going to Meglorganj. So, which I explained by saying there are two types of bodhicitta: aspirational bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. Aspirational bodhicitta is expressing the aspiration, how nice if I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Engaging bodhicitta is now having cultivated that aspirational mind, you take the bodhisattva vow. Vow means that now I will practice, not only talk. See, most of the time, this is important because most of the time, either we don't show interest in any of this teaching, spirituality, or even if we show some interest, we just read a little bit and never do our homework, never practice. It's like going to a restaurant, reading all the menus and not ordering the food and not eating it. It's of no benefit. No benefit. If you don't believe me, then go to a restaurant, read all the menu, don't eat, then see. I think Tushita should organize one session where you take all of them and let them read all the menus and don't let them eat. And Tushita also don't have to spend any money. I think this is a very good idea. So it's like that, if you really don't practice, it will not help you. If you practice, then it's like eating the food. When you eat the food, then you taste the flavor. When you practice, then you can taste the flavor of the Dharma. Then that will urge you to continue to do your practice. Because then you will start seeing that you are now happier person, calmer person, less anger, less jealousy. I mean, as I said, when you reduce some of these negative emotions, you're already doing some miracles. And you will become more handsome. You will become more beautiful. You will have more money. I mean, I'm talking, that is not the main purpose, but by doing the greater practice, you will get all this as a bonus. As a bonus. For example, if you used to be a very angry person, let us say. Now look at what these negative emotions do. When you get angry, you become handsome or ugly? Tell me. Beautiful or ugly? As simple as that. You want to become ugly? Then develop anger. If you want to be beautiful and handsome, then practice patience. You decorate yourself with all the, gold earrings and put a heavy cosmetic on your face, eyelashes bhi banao, sab kuch banao, you do everything. And after all this decoration, you get angry. Gold earrings are still there, makeup is still there, then you get angry. You don't look handsome or beautiful anymore. You look horrible actually. Then anger increases blood pressure. It is scientifically found, and you can test it by yourself. Nowadays there are very easy to use, equipments to measure your blood pressure. Get really, not fake anger. You should really get angry and then measure. Right? So anger makes you ugly. Anger, and the worst thing is, it'll make you a madman. What is the definition of a mad person? A mad person is who can't judge between what is right and what is wrong and continue to say everything that is nasty. When you get angry, you do exactly the same thing. Your capacity to judge between what is right and what is wrong is lost then. Then you are a mad person. You want to become a mad person? Oh. Then even in terms of money, there are so many cases of people who are hot-tempered and angry and then fighting with other and getting killed. You see? Look at the situation of the conflict that is going on today in various parts of the world. So many people are getting killed, because they are mad, insane. They are joining this group of insanity. And the result is people are killed on both sides in the stupid name of protecting the country or whatever. There's no limit. There's no limit to insanity and madness. So by studying this text, we are supposed to restore that sanity, do away with this madness. Right? Right? Next time you get angry, first thing that you should do is go and watch your face in a mirror. You still look handsome and beautiful, do it. And similarly, attachment. Comparing to anger, attachment looks milder and good, because anger and hatred says, go away. You distance yourself from people, get lost, have nothing to do with you. It's very obvious that it is harmful and destructive, but when attachment comes, it comes in a very gentle way. I love you so much. I can't live without you. You come closer to me, Looks very nice. But at the end of the day, attachment is like a drop of oil that falls on a clean piece of cloth. When once that attachment gets obsessed with that object, you get stuck there. You become immobilized. I mean, if you don't believe, look at the flies. Because of attachment to the filth, they go there and stuck there and die. And we are no exception. You see? So in the long run, attachment is very much more destructive. It comes in a gentle way, so people don't pay much attention, but it's very destructive. Be it environmental degradation, be it lack of harmony, be it air pollution, be it water pollution that we see today in the world is because of desire, unchecked greed, desire, attachment to things. When there is a conflagration of fire of conflict, it is noticeable at least. But this attachment has a very quiet, simmering effect to everything, destroying the planet, polluting the air and so forth. So unchecked greed or attachment is also very dangerous. And this all arises because of ignorance, about which I have explained a little bit. Anyway, I'm getting digressed a little bit. So, in brief, the awakening mind should be understood to be of two types: the mind that aspires to awaken and the mind that ventures to do so, engaging bodhicitta. Engaging bodhicitta. So once you take that bodhisattva vow and cultivate that engaging bodhicitta, then you need to practice. Practice what? The 6 perfections, about which we'll read in detail in this text. For example, first is giving. Practice of giving, practice of generosity, right? And then observing morality, then practicing patience, concentration, making effort and wisdom. So this you need to practice. Okay? So I'm not going to explain this in detail. As is understood by the distinction between aspiring to go to Megalorganj and actual going to Megalorganj. It is similar. This is an example. So the wise understand in turn the distinction between these two. There's no need to explain anything about this. It's quite simple. Okay? Verse number 17. Then yesterday I also explained a little bit about this, the conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Also remember that. Now next, then of course, if you have time to study more, then we can talk about this 22 different types of bodhicitta. 22 different types of bodhicitta. The bodhicitta which is like a gold, which is like a ground, which is like a reservoir, and so forth. Okay? Now next is thinking about the benefits, differences in terms of the benefit. Although great fruits occur in cyclic existence from the mind that aspires to awaken, an uninterrupted flow of merit does not ensue as it does with the venturing mind. So this is the differences between the aspirational bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. So he's saying, although great fruits occur in cyclic existence from the mind that aspires, meaning that there is a great benefit, even when you are in samsara, just by developing that aspirational bodhicitta, of course there is much benefit. Okay, but uninterrupted flow of merit does not occur unless you develop engaging bodhicitta. Right? So therefore, in order to get this uninterrupted flow of merit, you must develop the venturing mind or the engaging bodhicitta. And this is now he is trying to prove with reasons by saying, and those who have perfectly seized the mind, that means seized, I don't know, one who has perfectly cultivated that mind, with the thought never to turn away from totally liberating the infinite forms of life. From that time hence, so, and for those who have perfectly cultivated this mind, with the thought never to turn away, meaning that I will never give up this mind. When you are determined to cultivate this mind and make a promise never to turn your mind from this mind, this practice, and then your focus will be to totally liberate the infinite forms of life, infinite sentient beings. So to start with, this is saying that one of the main purpose of my life is to benefit others as much as possible. His Holiness the Dalai Lama summarizes this point by saying, if you can help others as much as possible. That's the point. If you can't help, at least do not harm. That much you can do. So as much as possible, I will help them. Why you should help them? Because they are like you. They want happiness, do not want suffering. And they are also connected to you. Your happiness is also connected to them. Your suffering is also connected to them. Right? So when you develop such a mind, from that time hence, even while asleep or unconcerned, a force of merit equal to the sky will perpetually ensue. So that means once you develop this engaging bodhicitta, and having made the promise to continuously cherish it, nurture it, practice it, then the influence of that altruistic mind is so powerful that even when you are asleep, even when you are sleeping, you are collecting merit. Even on those days when you are a little bit unconcerned, means even when you are a little bit careless, no, we can't pay attention 24 hours, right? So even those days, the influence of bodhicitta will be there. So I call this national highway. If you are driving on the national highway, it's very comfortable. The road is, there's not much road obstruction, things like that. But you cannot continuously drive on that. Sometimes you get tired, So there is a bypass, or you go a little bit sideways to have your lunch, to have your dinner, take rest, then again go to the national highway. It is like that. So your national highway, whatever be your profession, whatever work you are doing, whether you are a celebrity or a common man, a teacher or professor or businessman, whatever, you have to do this for your survival, but your national highway should be this thinking that I will as much as possible try to benefit others and not harm others. You call it Buddhist practice, you don't call it Buddhist practice, that is inevitable, that's extremely, extremely important. Because all kind of human activities, be it scientific, be it political, so long as it's a human activity, it must benefit human beings, at least, if not all sentient beings, as the Buddhists say, but at least it should benefit human beings. Now when we talk about human beings means human beings. Human beings means human beings. I did not say Americans or Chinese or Russians or Tibetan. Human beings. So here the first thing, to be able to practice this mind with a broader perspective is see all sentient beings if possible, or at least see all human beings as exactly same. Do you think we are all same? We are all same? At the core, we are all same. You may speak a little bit different language, your hairstyle may be a little bit different, you are a man or woman, child, whatever. But the most important thing that we need to know is we all want happiness, do not want suffering. We all want to be taken care of by somebody. We need love, we need affection. All of us, it's in our blood. It's in our blood. The problem arises when we forget this basic sameness and talk about not so related philosophy or religion or things like that. That's a secondary. So as I said yesterday, first be a sensible human being. Then talk about religion, then talk about philosophy, then talk about science. If you are a sensible human being, with this very understanding that we are all same, now it is again scientifically proved. If you, see the genes that is there in all human beings, more or less same, there's not much difference. If you take out the blood, color is same. And if you also analyze the content, there's not much difference. Not only with human beings, even with the monkeys, there's not much difference. Chimpanzees, there's not much difference. So this unnecessary, segregation and differentiation is done because of our negative ways of thinking. Right? So therefore, we should see the superficial differences as a uniting force, not dividing force. See this sea of human beings with different mega, different lobe, different color, See this like a beautiful garden where there is black roses, yellow, colored flowers, green colored flower, then the garden looks beautiful. But if it is a garden which has only red flowers, it's tolerable, but not so nice. So beautiful, you see. That's why people who come to India, they say, wow, I visited India, it's so colorful. Right? So it's very, very important to see the sameness. And don't run after this, the so-called stupid nationalism and other things that fool people, saying that you should die for your country. Why should I die for my country? What is my country? If my country is great, then I should live and serve that country, not die for that country. Right? I should live as long as possible to continuously serve that country, not die. But there's so much fooling around, and majority of the people they're honest, they're innocent, so they're easily duped by some of the demagogues, eloquent people. So they go after this segregation, division, killing each other, which is really no point, no meaning at all. Okay? So therefore, this is so wonderful. From that time hence, even while asleep or unconcerned, a force of merit equal to the sky will perpetually ensure. So that means your mind is the most important thing. If you mentally develop that broader perspective, that altruism, that bodhicitta to benefit all others, if that is, as I said, something like your national highway, then whatever you do generally will have the effect of that positive mind. Your mind is the key. So that is what he's saying. Okay? For the sake of those inclined towards the lesser, the Hinayana vehicle, or sometimes we say Sarukayana vehicle, this was logically asserted by the Tathagata himself in the sutra requested by Subahu. Okay. So this is saying that this teaching is given not simply for the sake of those who are inclined towards lesser path, so that they gradually come onto the greater path of the Mahayana. It is not just for the sake. This one says for the sake of those inclined towards the lesser vehicle. This was logically asserted, meaning that although this may have been taught to the lesser vehicle, to gradually bring them on the greater vehicle, the Mahayana vehicle, but that was not only the reason. The main reason is to help them develop appreciation of the qualities of bodhicitta and its benefits, and with that ascertainment, conviction, that they will gradually follow the Mahayana path. For the sake of those inclined towards the lesser, this was logically asserted by the Tathagata himself in the sutra requested by Subahu. So there is a story, that's taught there. So this is basically establishing the benefit of engaging bodhicitta by citing quotations. The quotation is from the sutra requested by Subahu. Because when you develop this bodhicitta, then in terms of the focus of the bodhicitta, it is countless sentient beings. And in terms of removal of suffering, you are talking about countless sufferings of all these sentient beings. You are also talking about the possibilities of achieving the highest state, the Buddhahood. So you are talking about countless qualities. So whether you think about this in terms of time, in terms of eon, in terms of duration, in terms of quality, there are so many reasons that we can use to prove this point of importance of bodhicitta, as is explained in the sutra requested by Subahu. Okay? So this is kind of trying to prove through citing the quotation where the Buddha himself talks about the importance of this. And then you can also prove this by using your reason and logic. He gives an example, a logical reasoning with an example by saying, if even the thought to relieve living creatures of merely a headache is a beneficial intention, endow it with infinite goodness, then what need is there to mention the wish to dispel their inconceivable misery, wishing every single one of them to realize boundless good qualities? So this is a reason and an example. Example, he is saying that even if you develop wish to help somebody to relieve, to give relief to their headache, or even if you give somebody to eat something for somebody who is hungry, even that small good deed that we do will be appreciated by people. This is wonderful. Now, if that is the case, then he's saying, what need is there to talk about the greatness of this bodhicitta, where you're talking about dispelling the suffering, inconceivable misery, means inconceivable suffering and misery of all sentient beings. That's not easy. As soon as you try to think about removing the suffering of all sentient beings, then the face of the enemy will come up. Okay, all sentient beings, but not this one. If you forget developing bodhicitta just to one person, so-called enemy, then you can't develop bodhicitta, because bodhicitta is a wish that aspires to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. All sentient beings means all sentient beings. Your enemies included. Right? Right? Okay. So what need is there to mention to wish, the wish to dispel their inconceivable misery, wishing every single one of them to realize boundless good qualities. That means to help them achieve Buddhahood. So now in this case, how can you develop this bodhicitta and loving kindness towards the person who had harmed you, your enemy? How are you going to develop this? By seeing them as a source of benefit for our benefit. Not just that, not just that. Huh? Huh? Considering that it's an opportunity the person is giving. Opportunity? So it's an opportunity the other person is giving for me to develop the bodhicitta. That's also one thing, but this you are considering in terms of your own personal benefit. But don't see just from the point of view of personal benefit, but also in terms of the situation of that person. Understand, the most important thing is that when you are ignorant, you can do any kind of negative thing. When your mind is influenced by ignorance, when your mind is confused, not only you will bring harm upon others, but you will also commit suicide when negative mind is there. Right? So therefore, make a distinction between the wrongdoing and the wrongdoer. Wrongdoing is wrong, criticize that. But always give an opportunity for the wrongdoer to join the mainstream of the community, to change, to develop, to make him or her a good human being. That is possible. The problem with us is, normally we don't make a distinction between the wrongdoing and the wrongdoer, especially in the case of others. But we are very clever. When it comes to us, we make that distinction. You make a mistake, then you say, I'm sorry, I slipped. I'm not that bad, You make a distinction. But when the same thing is done to other people, you don't make a distinction. You say, he is the one. She is that nasty woman, horrible person, incorrigible woman, You don't make a distinction. So that is where we go wrong. Make a distinction between the wrongdoing and the wrongdoer. Criticize the wrongdoing And you can humbly and gently say, what you did is wrong, but I know you are a good human being. But I know you didn't mean it. Then that person also start thinking, yes, he's saying the right thing. I was angry, I did this, I committed this mistake, I must change, but still that person is giving me this opportunity to stay with them. That's the way. So don't try to ostracize people. Because we are all ruled by negative emotions. Just like a good physician or doctor does not get angry when sick people come. When sick people come, if the doctor, physician is very angry, how is he going to give the treatment, you see? And in fact, it is because that they are sick. He is specially compassionate and he will try his best to help that sick person. So similarly, such should be the attitude. That we are all, in a sense, sick because of negative emotions. So that sickness needs healing. Not ostracizing, not kicking out from the society. Right? That is one very important thing. The second thing is, we should have genuine loving kindness in our mind towards everybody. Enemy, not enemy, friend, whatever. And the so-called division between the enemy and friend, there is no certainty. Today's your beloved friend might become sworn enemy tomorrow. Today's your sworn enemy might become your dear friend the next day. There's no certainty. There's no certainty. The so-called your beloved child that you very fondly take care today must have been your enemy in the past life. The so-called your enemy in this life must have been your very close brother, mother, sister. They appear in different forms due to the result of negative karma. For example, if you mistreat somebody very badly this life and see that person as your enemy, next life that person will be born with you as your child, and you need to repay that wrongdoing by showing kindness. You can't escape the fruits of law of causality. Right? So what is really important is see the problems of everybody. The so-called people who are in the higher ladder of the society, higher rung of the society, they have more mental problems. The rich people, the celebrities, at a distance looks nice, but they have a lot of mental problems. Competition, how to become more famous, how to enjoy these 5 minutes, appearance on the television, things like that. They have a lot of problem. Then people who are in the lower rung, they have problem of getting their daily food, clothing and so forth. So it is through the physical suffering and mental suffering, we are all inflicted by these two types of suffering, physical and mental suffering. This reminds me a teaching by the 7th Dalai Lama, very famous teacher and a very eloquent writer. So, in one of his teaching text, compositions, where he says, to whomever you look, the higher ones or the lower ones, or look at the monks and nuns or the lay people, the only difference you see is differences in costume, differences in expression, differences in haughtiness, but underneath they are all same, being inflicted by one or the other kind of suffering. Then he says, alas, is this fate of my brothers, sisters, sentient beings. You see, the difference is very superficial. So when you develop this understanding, and then the fact, the bigger fact, as I already mentioned, that all these people are going to die. And they are, right from the birth, they have started experiencing suffering. So therefore in Buddhism we say birth is suffering, aging is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering. But we normally think birth is not suffering, it's happiness, happy birthday. Who is right? Buddha or those of us? We celebrate happy birthday. The Buddha said birth is suffering. Who is right? You can just look at the child. The first thing that the child does after the birth is crying or laughing. Huh? Yeah, because the first thing that the child does is laughing, then you might say, oh, he must be a reincarnation. Huh? Avatar hai. Or he must be a devil, which is very unusual, So first thing that the child does is crying. By that I'm not saying don't celebrate happy birthday. Do it in a different sense, So birth is suffering. And I've very often seen that with that little child after birth, after some time, one thing that I notice that these small kids do repeatedly is yawning. Probably not very happy in samsara. And then aging is suffering. But aging is suffering, we don't even know the suffering of aging. Because we think aging means when you're over 60 or 70 or something like that. But in Buddhism we say aging starts right from the second moment of the birth. Aging means changing your youthfulness. And one of the texts says it's wonderful that the aging comes so slowly and unnoticeably. If there's an onslaught of aging, for example, you are a very young, smart-looking boy, young boy or girl, and go to bed, and next morning you get up with white hairs and wrinkled faces, you will die of heart attack, shock. So the only good thing with aging is it comes so slowly and so unnoticingly. But then the danger is, it is like environmental degradation. Somebody chops a tree down there, nobody cares. Somebody chops a tree up there, nobody cares. In this way, we are continuously destroying the environment, so much so that one day, when it becomes very obvious, then probably it will be very difficult to restore the damage you have done on the environment. So similarly, if you don't understand this process of aging much in advance, then gradually when you're over 60 or 70, when you realize that you're aging, there's nothing much you can do. Because your senses are failing, your memory is failing, your mind is not very sharp, then it's too late. Right? So aging is sickness, aging is suffering. And then sickness, of course, all kinds of sicknesses now, especially in today's so-called modern world. We are having so many kind of never heard before sicknesses, pandemics. These are all very much related to human misadventure. How much mistreatment, suffering we are creating on animals, playing with all kinds of animals. And now, unfortunately, people say that these are actually intentionally created in a lab. The viruses, the COVID-19 viruses. And even these viruses are now produced in a lab to attack other countries. So whatever may be the case, these are all very much related to our misadventure and mistreating the animals. Somewhere I read almost like 50-60% of our diseases come in relation to other animals. So after 3-4 days, we are having 5-6 days conference here in Dharamsala, which is on animal consciousness. So it's important to talk about animal rights, animal consciousness. In Buddhism, as far as possessing consciousness, there is no difference between animals and human beings. It's only a difference is only a degree. They all want happiness. They all experience suffering. They also have a limited amount of expressing their gratitude. Recently I saw a very elderly person who was very sick and hospitalized. And when he was healthy, he must be feeding pigeons. And one of these pigeons somehow, flew all around to look for that person. And he managed to, come through the window and sat on that sick old man. That's his way of expressing love and gratitude. Although there's nothing he can do, but he made it sure that he visits him regularly. A very moving picture. And then very recently, when there was this big earthquake in Istanbul, you've seen dogs who are looking for their owner and trying to take them out from the rebels of the destruction, you see. So they all have this feeling of, a limited feeling of loving kindness or whatever, So therefore, it's very important to know how to live with the nature, with the environment, okay? Very, very important. Because the environment that is there around us is actually the place where the rest of the sentient beings live. If you are genuinely somebody who is talking about helping all sentient beings, then also help the places where they live. They live in the rocks, they live in the water, they live in the trees. When Tibet was free, although technologically and scientifically and materially we accept that Tibet was not developed. But now when we look back from another perspective, Tibet was the most developed country. Because, we live within nature. And water means drinkable. Wherever it is. Water means drinkable. In Tibet, we never ask this question, is this water drinkable or not drinkable? Now, even when you check in a 5-star hotel, you are not sure whether the water that is available through the tap is drinkable or not drinkable. I personally asked one of the employees working there in a 5-star hotel, can we drink from the tap? He was not sure. He said, maybe. This is the way, you move the shoulder, maybe. So, not so sure, you see. So that is the situation, you see, that's the situation. Right? So we need to live with the nature, okay? Verse number 23. Do even fathers and mothers have such a benevolent intention as this? I mean, this is a challenging question. This bodhicitta is such an amazing, supreme mind that even your father, so mothers don't have that for you. Your father may be very kind, your parents may be very kind. They give you extend all kind of helps. But there are not many parents who will say, cultivate bodhicitta. So this is the point. Now we need to, change if you want to change the society, then what you need to teach your children is cultivate loving kindness, cultivate compassion, cultivate patience, cultivate bodhicitta. Not just give them money, not just send them to a famous school, so-called famous school, where you force them to get the highest grade, and then many people not being able to get it, commit suicide. That's what is happening in today's society, unfortunately. Parents putting so much pressure on the children, you see. Things like that. Do even fathers and mothers have such a benevolent intention? Like the bodhicitta that we are talking about? Do the gods and sages Or does even Brahma have it? These are supposed to be higher beings. So what he's saying is, in the worldly stance, even your fathers and mothers, they might think about the children's long life, that they are free from sickness, disease, that they become rich, they become powerful. But it is only bodhicitta which aspires to help you achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Oh, I understand, with my parents, they will not talk about this because they don't have knowledge. So this is answered by saying, then what about the gods and sages? They have better knowledge. Because these sages and gods, they are supposed to have clairvoyance. They are supposed to be very learned about all the 18 subjects and so forth. Right? If those beings have never before even dreamt of such an attitude for their own sake, how would it ever arise for the sake of others? So it's only now, luckily, that we gained access to such teachings. We are at least talking about the importance of bodhicitta. But otherwise, normally, how can they think about helping others cultivate that bodhicitta to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings? They did not think about cultivating such a mind even for themselves. I mean, if हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना, ये क्या हो गया, अभी तक कहाँ सो के बैठा है? Where were we? Have we been sleeping until now, that you never thought about these good minds? So this explanation is good because now you realize, at least today I gained access to such amazing teachings. How nice if I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. You are not saying, if I become Buddha, I will relax. You are saying, how nice if I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. In order to benefit all sentient beings, you need to become Buddha, you need to get completely enlightened. It's only then, when you get completely enlightened, you have the capacity to help others, because you know what is their mental state right now. You know what they have been doing in the past many lives. What is their karmic connection? What kind of teaching will be beneficial? What kind of teaching will not be beneficial, They know exactly. For example, let me tell you this story of Ajatashatru, Indian king, who killed his father. I think Bimbisara killed his father because of the asking of his wrong friend. His wrong friend said that unless you kill your father, we'll never get an opportunity to become the king. So let us kill our fathers. So he killed his father, Bimbisara. Then, having killed his father, he also came to know that patricide and matricide, that means killing father and killing mother, is a very, very heinous crime. Very heavy crime. The one who give you birth, life, if you kill them, as a very, very heavy negative deed. He heard about this. Then he went into depression. What to do now? I already killed my father, what to do? Then somebody said, the only person who can help you is the Buddha. You go and seek his advice. So with a depressed mind, he went to the Buddha and said, this is what I did. How can I now purify this negative deed? The Buddha said, there's nothing to worry. Why are you worrying? Father and mother are to be killed. The Buddha said, why are you worrying? Father and mother are to be killed. Buddha said this because the first thing that he wanted was to take him out of that depressed state. Then only he can give teaching. So he thought, since Buddha is, highly learned and educated person, he must be right. So he came back to his senses. His depression was now more or less recovered. Then after that, Buddha said, okay, now come, listen, I'll explain what I mean by father and mother to be killed. When I said father and mother to be killed, I'm not talking about killing your physical father and mother, but I'm talking about killing ignorance and the first of the 12 links of dependent origination, ignorance and the contaminated karma. It is because of this ignorance and the karma which projects us into these endless cycles of suffering in the samsara. So if you want to come out of this problem, come out of this suffering, if you want to purify your wrong deed of having killed your father, then you need to remove ignorance, because you did this out of ignorance. You committed this act of crime out of ignorance. So the only solution is you need to eradicate and uproot ignorance and the contaminated karma. So this is called interpretative teaching. Depending upon the need of the people, he gives what we call as interpretative teaching and definitive teaching. It's just like, having different subjects to students or children of different age group. You can't teach PhD subjects to kindergarten going kids, even though your aim may be gradually to make them PhD students, but the approach has to be gradual. So depending upon the mental disposition, the interest, the capacity, the Buddha gives different teachings, because he knows exactly their mental disposition, their past lives experience, their karmic formation, everything. So that is why we say, how nice if I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Before becoming Buddha, if you are more learned, more educated, more experienced, that much you will be able to guide people. Your guidance will be much, much more effective. If you don't have any personal experience, of having lived different types of life and having the knowledge of Dharma, you may not be able to answer people's problems, difficulties. So therefore, becoming Buddha, of course, is not easy, almost impossible thing. I'm sorry to say this. I'm not saying impossible, almost impossible. Given that high level of happiness, education, given our meager effort, the other day we read, the positive virtues practices are weak, negative emotions are strong. For getting distracted, for developing negative emotions, you have so many supporting societies and friends. Come, let us go to the nightclub and sing and dance. I'll give you all the money. I'll throw the party, When it comes to doing Dharma practice, not many will come for saying, oh, you're going to Dharamsala for your Dharma practice, you don't have money? Okay, I'll give you. Have you met anybody? This is the thing. When it comes to doing good practices, it is like a heavily loaded donkey taken uphill. Heavily loaded donkey taken uphill. That heavily loaded donkey will take just one step up and then look back. He wants to come back, doesn't want to go up. So our Dharma practice and the spiritual practice, positive practices are like that. When it comes to doing negative things or not so good things, it is like a heavy boulder thrown down the slope of a mountain. It will just run and roll down quickly. Why this is so? Because of our past lives habit. Why do we have such a habit? As I explained yesterday. One, because of many past lives habit. And two, because we still have this animal instinct. We have a human body, but mentally very much animal in many cases. Right? So, So therefore the Buddhist teachers, they say, this is the time to make a distinction between the animals and human beings. This is the time to make a distinction between animals and human beings. We call ourselves human beings. Okay? For those beings have never before even dreamt of such an attitude for their own sake, how would it ever arise for the sake of others? This intention to benefit all beings, which does not arise in others even for their own sake, is an extraordinary jewel of the mind, and its birth means development of this bodhicitta, is an unprecedented wonder. I mean, it's really amazing. How can we cultivate such a mind? It's amazing, it's wonderful that we are talking about. We have not generated, but we are at least talking about it. We are planning to move on that path of cultivation bodhicitta. Don't you think this is a dream? This is what he's saying. It's really, really amazing. Amazing of all the amazing things. Because it never occurred to you in many past lives. So this is really like a blind person fumbled upon a, big rock of gold. So overnight you will become rich. Right? How can I fathom the depths of the goodness of this jewel of the mind? This bodhicitta is the jewel of the mind. The panacea that relieves the world of pain and is the source of all its joy. Now imagine if every single individual in this world is a bodhisattva. Imagine. You don't have to talk about liberation, enlightenment, and all these big things. Imagine if this world is full of people who are bodhisattva, or who at least have developed this loving kindness, who knows how to live harmoniously with others. This world is in a way already nirvana. Environmental destruction will not be there. Conflict and killing will not be there. Wastage of mineral resources will not be there. And it will be full of people with contentment, ready to help each other, playing, singing, dancing, whatever. That is the goal. How do we do that? First, one should study the importance of such teaching and then gradually spread the word. Spread the word. It's very important. How can I fathom the depths, How can I fathom the depths? You cannot fathom the depths of bodhicitta. Such an amazing mind. I mean, it's not so difficult to say, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, but imagine you're cultivating such a mind where you don't differentiate. In the case of the Buddha, it's unbelievable. There is a statement which says, if Buddha is flanked by two people, on his two sides, flanked by two people, one who is his enemy and has a very sharp knife and starts cutting piece by piece on the left side of the Buddha's body, hurting him, harming him. Then another, Buddha's friend, anointing his right side with sandal, fragrance and massaging his right side of the body. One, chopping. Buddha will see no difference between these two people. We can't believe this right now because our mind is so small. But it is possible. We have that potential. For example, if a mother who has so much love to her, let us say, single, little, cute child. If the mother has only one child, which is naughty, innocent, cute, and unfortunately, suddenly, if this little child falls into a pit of fire, what will the mother do? In most cases, the mother, without a second thought might jump into the pit of fire to save that child. This mother, not necessarily a Buddhist mother, any mother. This shows we have the potential, we have the capacity. We are not making it manifest, we are not highlighting it. So it's important to highlight this potential that we all have. We are not talking, in empty. We are talking about possibilities. And then especially when it comes to training the mind, the good news is that the training the mind and training the body is totally different. When you train the body, the training that you are giving to the body, that body itself is material, physical. Anything that is physical, material can make limited development, limited progress, not beyond that. I always give the example of, let us say, the world's number one, gold medalist, let us say, in long jump. World's number one. And still, let us say, he continues to improve his long jump. He may be able to make some progress, but it will never come to that person that he is so good that he is now today jumping from one mountain to another mountain. Have you encountered any gold medalists who are jumping from one mountain to another mountain? That's not possible. Because the basis on which you are giving the training is physical material. That we need to understand. That we need to understand because today we are paying so much attention to so-called material development. The so-called material development has to come from external natural resources. External natural resources by definition are limited because being physical and material. So how can you make unlimited progress from limited resources? You will only end up destroying the whole environment. That is already happening. Now look at this weather here at Dharamsala. Dharamsala normally earlier used to be very pleasant in April and October. I'm not saying it's horrible right now, but see the change. Still the winter seems to be lingering, and then suddenly there's sunshine, very hot. Then rain, so rainy season, summer season, winter season are all coming together in one day. Right? So therefore, anything that is material, every country is talking about improving developing their, increasing their GDP every year. Impossible. You will only end up killing the natural resources, which we are already doing. Against their material development, when you talk about the internal mental development, then you can develop to a limitless state. Sky is the limit. External development, even if you want to construct a house, you have a lot of difficulty, right, to get the space these days. Very expensive. Still you try to build a house. Very expensive. There will be problem of encouragement, getting the legal sanction, having to pay a lot of money, lot of problems. That's material, physical construction like that of a house. Now in terms of mental construction, as I said, sky is the limit. Nobody will, generally speaking, nobody will stop you. Or even if somebody tries to stop you, they have no idea what is happening in your mind, so therefore they will not be able to stop you. Right? Now look at this joke. That area, the material area where there is limitation, we are not contented. Always saying, I want more, I want more, I want more. In the realm of the mind, where there is a possibility to make unlimited progress, there you are completely satisfied. Completely satisfied. At the most you will say, oh, I went for 5 days teaching in Dharamsala. In a year, there is a big thing, right? So in Buddhism, what we are saying is, use this mind and make unlimited progress, unlimited development, so much so that there is a possibility to become Buddha, or at least possibility to become a Bodhisattva, or at least a really, really good human being. There's a possibility if you make an effort. And once you do it, there will be total happiness in yourself. Whether you're rich, you will be happy. You will not get crazy. If you're rich, you will think, okay, somehow I have this much amount of money, but this is not just for me. A Bodhisattva never keeps anything for himself. The Bodhisattvas never say that I live in poverty. So then when they have material accumulation, they say it's good, but it's not for me, it's for others. It's not like the rich people today, They want to hoard everything. Not going out helping others. I mean, not everybody, some people do help, but generally speaking, right? And when you don't have anything, you are happy. The Buddha said one time, I'm very happy because I don't have anything. You will be shocked, surprised to hear these kind of statements, you see. Normally we think if I have so much, I'll be happy, but the more you have, the more there is additional problem. If you don't understand this, then think about income tax. And many others. I don't want to elaborate, you know this very well. Right? So in the case of external material things, it's like boiling water. You boil, it will become hot, hotter, and then 100 degrees centigrade. After that you heat more, then what will become? It will not become hotter, I think. It will change into vapor and vanish. In the case of mental development, continuously you can make mental development. So therefore, in today's world, we talk so much about investment. In Buddhism, we are talking about internal investment. When you do this internal investment, wherever you go, you have courage, you have calmness, you have harmony, you have peace of mind, and all of these inner qualities will never become excessive baggage. The material belongings, the Buddha said, don't keep too many things, they are excessive baggage. Nobody listened. Now today, when you check in at the airport, they'll say, Madam, sorry, excess baggage. You have to pay for it. You have to pay for it. Now people are listening. They never listened to Buddha. But now they listen, they not only listen to the people at the airport, but they are also ready to give extra money. How much I have to pay for 5 excess baggage? 200 into 5 or something like that. You pay it. You see, this is the result of not listening to the words of wisdom from Buddha and others, you see. Right? So therefore, what I'm saying is, this cultivation of bodhicitta is really, really amazing. Really amazing. That's what he's repeatedly saying. If merely a benevolent intention excels veneration of the Buddha, then what need to mention striving to make all beings without exception happy? Okay? If mere a benevolent intention of helping others is more precious than giving lot of material things, And excels veneration of Buddha means if you cultivate this wish to benefit others, this is much better than making offerings to the Buddha or making venerations to the Buddha. Since this being the case, what need to mention? Striving to make all beings without exception happy. Because when you talk about helping all sentient beings, you are talking about sentient beings whose number is equal to the space. And your what need to mention? Striving to make all beings without exception happy means making them all become Buddha. Making them all become Buddha. Now our question is asked by saying, okay, this is both cultivation of bodhicitta is very important, but they will do themselves. Why should I volunteer to teach them bodhicitta and all those things? They will do it if you think something like this. This is how our selfish mind always thinks. Why should I intervene? Why should I talk about helping others? They also have mind. They're also human being like me. They will do that for themselves. I'll do it for myself. Who am I to take this responsibility? That's how we normally think. So this is answered by saying, in the case of sentient beings, although wishing to be rid of suffering, they run towards misery itself. Although wishing to have happiness, like an enemy, they ignorantly destroy it. That meaning that although sentient beings want happiness, but because of ignorance, they destroy the cause of happiness as if it is their enemy, because of ignorance. They want happiness. Yes, everybody wants happiness. We discussed this earlier. But because of ignorance, they destroy the very cause of happiness. They don't talk about loving kindness. They don't talk about patience. They don't talk about bodhicitta. They talk about money. They talk about sensual pleasures. They are ignorant. Similarly, they don't want suffering, but again, because of ignorance, they always chase suffering, run after suffering. You run after 5 minutes pleasure, then get the suffering for the rest of the life. Something like this, you see. So because they are ignorant, it's like you're dealing with the small kids. Why you need to constantly take care of the small kids? Because they are innocent, they don't know. They might jump into the fire or whatever, you see. So you need to keep a constant watch where your children are playing, what they are doing, what they are eating, So similarly, a bodhisattva has to watch all sentient beings and help them. They don't know, therefore you need to help them. That's what he's saying. Although wishing to be rid of misery, they run towards misery itself because of ignorance. Although wishing to have happiness, like an enemy, they ignorantly destroy it. So they destroy the cause of happiness and cultivate the cause of suffering. So that means what you want and what you do are contradictory. You want a long-lasting happiness, what you do is, you end up running after sensual pleasures, immediate sensual gratifications. That is the problem. So therefore you need to help them. That's what he's saying. Now, for example, we all want, just to give you a small example, how this is so. All of us want health, right? Happiness, long life. If you want health, you need to be careful what you're eating. What is your lifestyle? As simple as that. How ignorant and confused we are. You keep on taking Coca-Cola. You keep on taking all kinds of packaged foods, junk food. We need a revolution actually. Because all these junk foods are produced because we are consuming, they are consumers. So we can't just criticize those who produce, but we are equal partner. We are consuming it. We are consuming junk food all the time. What is meaning of junk food? Junk foods are those foods which has high presence of sugar and salt. No word on sugar. How much sugar you are taking? Tea, how many times you take? Then soft drinks, how many times you take? Biscuits, how many times you take? I mean, imagine, look at what you are feeding to your body. I mean, even there we are not careful, we are not watchful. Right? So we need to really stop many of these things. Or at least there should be some moderation. So we are killing ourselves. You are suffering from hypertension, still salt. You are diabetic, still, or just today, sweet, just today, no problem. So we need this kind of mindfulness and awareness in our everyday life, our lifestyle, what we are eating, with whom we are going, all these things. If you really want happiness, if you don't want long-lasting happiness, then the choice is yours. Do whatever you want. That's what these teachings are saying. For those who are deprived of happiness and burdened with many sorrow, it satisfies them with all joys, dispels all suffering. That means this bodhicitta is important, very important for those who are without happiness, for those who are burdened with sufferings. So it is bodhicitta that satisfies them and gives them all kind of joy. For those who are deprived of happiness means who are suffering from poverty in terms of enjoyment of happiness. So there are a number of sentient beings who are without happiness. So they are poor in that sense. And in terms of sorrow or suffering, they possess many causes for suffering. So therefore they are in a very sad situation. Therefore, what should we do to those people who are deprived of happiness and who are burdened with many sufferings? What should we do? We need to extend loving kindness. He uses the word joy. Joy or loving kindness. That loving kindness and joy should be extended through the development of loving kindness. So through development of loving kindness, give them all joys. All joys means temporary joy and long-term joy. With loving kindness. Dispel all suffering. How will you dispel their suffering? You will dispel all their suffering by developing great kindness, great compassion. Compassion is a mind which says how nice if all sentient beings are without suffering. So it is with the development of loving kindness, you make them meet with all kind of joy and happiness in this life and in many lives to come. And with the development of great compassion, dispel all their sufferings. And clears away confusion. That means with the development of great wisdom, you show them what to adopt and what to practice, and that way remove or clear away confusion or ignorance. So this being the case, where is there a comparable virtue like bodhicitta? Where is there even such a friend? Where is there merit similar to this? So bodhicitta is something that has no comparison. Ordinary human friends, in spite of their wishing to help you, they may not be able to help you. But if you have these inner qualities like bodhicitta, they are best best friend, reliable friend. When you are depressed, they will encourage you, lift your spirit. Right? When you are arrogant, it will reduce your arrogance. So these inner qualities are your most reliable teacher, reliable friend. If you develop these inner qualities, wherever you go, you will be fine. The rest, as I said, the external material facilities are more or less excess baggage. Right? So where is there a comparable virtue? There are many good things like loving kindness, compassion, things, they are very good, patience, very good. But is there a virtue which says, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings? Even compassion doesn't say that. Compassion is very important. Compassion says, how nice if I'm able to remove the sufferings of all sentient beings. But it's not talking about how nice if I become Buddha. Right? So therefore, where is there a comparable virtue? Where is there even such a friend? Such a friend. You have many friends, but have you friends who shows you, who always tells you what you should be doing, what you should not be doing? Or even if there's one, do you have a friend who really knows what he's saying? Right? Where is there a merit similar to this? Merit means the fruit that you get by practicing this. Because the merit means as a result of cultivation of bodhicitta, you achieve Buddhahood. So is there a merit similar to this which will give you Buddhahood? If whoever repays a kind deed is worthy of some praise, then what need to mention the bodhisattvas who do good without is being asked of them? Now if you do something good to some other people, the next time this is repaid, still you say he's a good man. But in this case, the bodhisattvas, they are helping you even if you have not helped them. They are helping you even if they have harmed you. Right? So that's what he's saying. If whoever repays a kind deed is worthy of some praise, I lend him 100 rupees, he give me back. He's a nice person, reliable person. Then what need to mention the bodhisattvas who do good without it being asked of them? Because the bodhisattvas day and night, the only thought that they have is, how can I help my mother sentient beings? You see? The world honors as virtues one who sometimes gives a little plain food disrespectfully to a few beings, which satisfy them for only half a day. Now, according to the worldly ways of doing things, the world honors as virtues someone who sometimes gives a little. That person is not giving something, food or other things all the time, but sometimes gives a little. And what he gives is not very special food, but ordinary plain food. And that also he gives it not respectfully, but disrespectfully. That's what we do. For example, if there is a beggar, if he's asking money, how do we give the money? Normally we don't give. If you give money, how do you do? You just throw it down. You're looking down. In many cases we say, Leo bhag jao, take this and get lost. You see? Then great bodhisattvas like Aryadeva, when somebody came to test his power of bodhicitta, requested him to give his eye, and it is said he took out his eye and gave it respectfully. This we can't imagine right now, how this is possible. But again, I can give you example about the possibilities of such things when your mind is trained. Right? You practice the very practice of giving. You are encouraged to practice giving. So therefore, when the bodhisattvas hear the sound of somebody begging, they feel very happy. Oh, there is an opportunity to practice merit, to practice virtue. It's not like I was thinking, oh, the devil beggar is coming. You know? Right? Now it is scientifically proved that giving is so good. Normally when you give something, for example, I have this one watch. I give this watch to others, then I am without watch. I lost something. That's how we feel. But now interestingly, scientifically, they discovered whether the giver is more happy or the receiver is more happy. They found the giver is more happy. Actually, it looks like the receiver should be more happy because he gets this watch, whereas I lose my watch. But because the happiness is related to your mental state, this is scientifically found. Quite recently, somebody scientifically did a test on this, and then they found that the giver gains more happiness than the receiver. The world honors as virtuous one who sometimes gives a little plain food and also disrespectfully to a few beings, not all sentient beings, which satisfy them for only half a day. Still, that person will be honored. And you might give him a good name saying he's our sponsor. If this is the case, then what need to be said then of one, the Bodhisattvas, who eternally, not one day, half day, eternally bestows the peerless bliss of the Buddhahood, the Sugata Buddhahood, upon limitless number of sentient beings, thereby fulfilling all their hopes. The Buddha has said that whoever bears harmful thought against a benefactor such as a Bodhisattva will remain in hell for as many eons as there are harmful thoughts. That means, so that this is saying that therefore, because of their kind thought and kind deed, the Bodhisattvas are very, very important. They are dedicated to help all sentient beings become Buddha. So because of this, they are great quality, great inner virtuous quality. If you do something against them, it's very sinful. In plain language, I should say, if among your society, if there's somebody who is really working very hard to improve the lot of the society, if you discourage that person, it's very sinful. You need to encourage those people, support them. That's why as a Buddhist, with the recent happenings with His Holiness, with the sticking of the tongue, when people said many bad things, those of us who understand Buddhism, I said, oh, they are committing a very, very heavy sin. And I always say this with the Chinese leaders who always try to bully and, destroy his name. They are committing such a horrible sin, which they don't know, unfortunately. But when it comes to experience the result, it is not whether you know it or not, you will experience the result. Right? Yeah. So there the Buddha has said that whoever bears a harmful thought against a benefactor such as a Bodhisattva will remain in hell for as many eons. Means if you develop this negative emotion for few instants, few seconds, to that number you will have to remain in hell. Countless eons. Eons is almost like countless. But to make it more understandable, what I said earlier is when you see good people doing good things, never discourage them. Never become jealous. And unfortunately, we human beings have this natural tendency to get competitive and jealous. For example, if I praise somebody saying, oh, this monk or this person is doing many amazing things. If I share this to somebody, that somebody will say, yeah, in this way he is doing good, but... So again trying to pull the leg, I know this person, in this area he is good, but in that there are many bad things he is doing which I know, you don't know, kind of attitude. That is wrong. If somebody is doing good, just that part, good, just say that. As a human being, he or she may have many other weaknesses. We are not talking about that right now. Highlight the good things. And in our case, ordinary beings, when it comes to saying bad things, we are very vocal. And you act as if you are the one who should pass the final judgment. Like with this recent happening with His Holiness, I did not write or say anything, but I found it's so sad actually. Those people who are killing hundreds and thousands every day, these people who are now trying to attack His Holiness, I watch and I can say this safely, these people never have said one word against those murderers. Because they are scared. So we are living in a society where it almost looks like doing bad things is normal, it's okay. So let us attack good people. If they make a mistake, attack them. So it's actually bullying. Because good people like His Holiness, he didn't do any mistake. Still he says, sorry if I harmed you. This is a Bodhisattva way of life. People don't understand these things. I can't explain this to other people, so therefore I didn't write. There is a story of this famous Bodhisattva who wrote this famous mind training text, 8 verses of mind training, Langri Thangpa. His name is Langri Thangpa. The black, he has a nickname called black-faced Langri Thangpa, because he is constantly thinking about suffering of sentient beings. Therefore he never smiles, always like very serious. It is said that he loved only 1 or 2 occasions. Once he was doing his meditation, then there was some, in the altar, there was some nice arrangement of food or something like this. Then some rats came in. Then 2 rats together, they were trying to lift something, So he could not stop laughing, he smiled or laughed, On other occasions, he's very serious. So he's called, nicknamed black-faced Langri Thangpa. So when Langri Thangpa, very famous teacher, when he was giving the teaching, a lady came with her child and brought it straight to him and said, you take your child, you take care of your child. This is your child. Then Langri Thangpa, when he was giving teaching, he said, okay, leave it there. Okay, leave it there. Then even among people, even some of his followers, they developed some kind of suspicion. Maybe Langri Thangpa probably did something wrong. This is how we think, it's so easy to go on the wrong side. Except some of the core students, they started thinking like this. Then Langri Thangpa made it sure that some monks and some other people take good care of the child. Then after a while, that woman came back and she apologized. She wept and said, I did this because of such and such reasons, because of somebody's asking, I had to do that. Of course, this is not your child. Can you please now give my child back? Then he said, okay, take it. Okay, take it. And then it said he performed a lot of special prayers. Again, people thought, oh, he must have done something wrong, therefore he's doing this prayer to purify all his negative things. Then they learned, no, he's saying, whatever be the case, these unpleasant things happen, this should be purified. So therefore now many people are saying, oh, His Holiness must have done something wrong, therefore, because he apologized. You see, this is our mentality, you see. He's not saying whether he's right or wrong, he is simply saying, if my action has hurt you, I'm sorry. He's not trying to justify this in the media, he simply wrote this to the parents and children. And the parents and children, after the meeting, they very clearly said, no, it was just a gesture of kindness and love, nothing else. Like this, we'll never understand what this really, really great beings. Somebody who at this age of 87, do you think he will do such a stupid thing in the presence of the camera and everything, as if he's dying? So they'll bully good people because they will not do anything. They will never say a word against, as I said, all those murderers, killers. Right now, it's bombing and killing How many people are saying things against these people? That's why the other day I quoted Martin Luther King, who said, I don't feel sad when bad people do bad things. I feel sad when good people don't do good things. You see, we're not able to say things like that. Anyway, so where are we? Okay. However, if a virtuous attitude should arise in that regard, its fruit will multiply for more than that. When bodhisattvas greatly suffer, they generate no negativity. Instead, their virtues naturally increase. So that means, however, instead of developing negative, attitude towards bodhisattva, if you develop positive attitude, then the fruit will also be very, very large, very, very special. Because when bodhisattvas, even if you do something wrong to the bodhisattvas and develop some negativity towards them, still you collect some merit because of your having this connection. When you make a connection with the bodhisattvas, this is again another perspective. When you make a connection with the bodhisattva, negatively or positively, still because of the bodhisattva's prayers, you will gather some merit. That's what he's saying. I bow down to the body of those in whom the sacred precious mind is born. I seek refuge in that source of joy who brings happiness even to those who bring harm. I don't think you need any explanation here. I bow down to the body of those. Body of those means those bodhisattvas who had cultivated bodhicitta. I bow down physically, verbally, mentally. When you pay homage, you should pay homage physically, verbally, mentally. That means that shows your total dedication. Just like you are cheering the group of the football players, which is on your side. When you cheer them up, you mentally feel very happy that they are playing well. Then physically you also get up. Wonderful, wonderful, give another kick. And then verbally also you shout. So like that. To show total dedication, you bow down physically, verbally, mentally to those body, means the body of a bodhisattva that has cultivated bodhicitta. This is important because the bodhisattva was such that even if you bully them and make a negative connection, still that will have positive fruit. Because in their mind they have this sacred, precious mind of bodhicitta, which is source of peace and happiness for everybody. So therefore I take refuge in them. So that is what this verse is saying. So this concludes the first chapter. Okay, one or two questions?
Well, this is probably a little sensible question. I feel a little uncomfortable about asking it, but since you've mentioned it, I know that there's a lot of confusion in some people about this issue of this sucking the tongue of the Dalai Lama, His Holiness. And I was wondering if you could explain it, because some people see it as a sexual misconduct, and if you could just give an explanation.
If you watch this video carefully, of course, the Tibetan custom, everything, somebody has beautifully explained everything. You may or may not have studied all this. You know, in Tibet, when a child comes and asks for something, then the father or mother would tease their child by saying, I have nothing to give. Or if you want something, just first give me a kiss. Then give a kiss. Then give me a kiss here. Then I have nothing to give except my tongue, take it. This is a joke, you know. Now this is a cultural background. Then also the actual happening, if you see, His Holiness says the same thing. First the child asks for a hug, and then of course gives the hug. Then he said, give me a kiss. Then suck my tongue. He was not really meaning that child suck his tongue. When the child comes a little forward, then he gives a pat and goes back. You may not have seen that one. So that unfortunately that made bizarre and not clear and cropped and then circulated. So things like that. Yeah. Then also, as I said, no sane person would do it in front of a camera. You see. Anyway, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
About yesterday, talking about emptiness, it's been mentioned that discursive thoughts stop when you understand emptiness. And like discursive thoughts like, oh, I like this color green, it reminds me of my sweater, and I lost a button in it, I have to go find it and have to go to a, you know how we have discursive thoughts all the time?
Can you speak?
How we have discursive thoughts all the time?
We
have continuous discursive thoughts, like I see this color green and I think of a sweater, and then I have to go get a button, and I have to have lunch near where I go get the button. So how does understanding emptiness stop that? What aspect of understanding emptiness stops?
Not only emptiness, but in your spiritual practice, as I mentioned earlier, you need constant practice. When you do your practice constantly, even the so-called very difficult practice becomes very easy practice. The so-called difficultiness is very much dependent upon your practice. Let me give you an example. For example, if you have an enemy who you are very fearful, and even by hearing the name of this enemy, you used to tremble. Then let us say, unfortunately, fortunately, that enemy becomes your next door neighbor. Now for the first few days, you of course very uncomfortable. Somebody might do something to me, things like that. But then that person has become your neighbor. So you will cross your paths, going up and down. But for the first few times when you cross path, you of course make a promise never to look at him, go with a straight face. How many times you can do that, The encounter will be very frequent. Then one day you just show a little bit smile, not big smile, but a little bit. And he also does the same thing. Then after a while, one of you will start saying, hello, or good morning. Then you start talking, start knowing each other. Then you start inviting each other to your home for a cup of tea or something. Then through this way, gradually you become such a close friend that now you will be not happy in the absence of that person. That same person whose very name you used to tremble, now you can't live without that person. That's all habituation. So similarly, in practice of cultivation of bodhicitta and emptiness, of course it's not easy. But, as Aryadeva says in his 400 verses, how to say, where he says, even if you develop some kind of, even if you raise some questions towards emptiness, that will cut the root of samsara asunder. Even if you ask questions, what is emptiness? You develop some kind of, curiosity. Ask some question. That itself is a big step towards nirvana, liberation. Right? So therefore we need to develop this understanding of shunyata through the threefold process of listening, contemplation, meditation, like any other practice. Okay? One more, yeah, down there.
So you spoke about distinguishing between wrongdoing and wrongdoers, that wrongdoing is bad but wrongdoers are not. But so my question is, what about habitual wrongdoers, habitual offenders? Shouldn't some resistance be offered to them? Shouldn't they be exposed so that they don't commit the sins again?
Yeah. So it's almost like saying, shall we help those people who are addicted or not? Right? Even if somebody is highly, addicted to drugs and other things, we always try to help them. So addiction to negative emotions is even much more stronger. But that does not justify that we should not help them, because they are sick. And sick people must be helped. Right? So any kind of addiction, we should try to help that person who is addicted and help that person overcome that addiction. And it's possible, slowly, surely. I've seen many people who are addicted to drugs and addicted to many things. Suddenly they come back to senses and they become a totally different person. So never give up hope. Right? Yeah.
It is very difficult to accept that the person is addicted. That is clearly visible. That person is suffering, but the person is looking healthy physically or mentally, but they are doing wrong thing with art. It is very difficult to accept them and very difficult to forgive them. How can they do that? How they don't understand that?
This is exactly what the Buddha talks about us. The Buddha said, how come you do not understand this? I've been saying that you're addicted to anger, jealousy, and it's so obvious. How come you are repeatedly doing this? So it's not just addiction to the drug, but addiction to all kind of bad habits, negative emotions, Because of, again, as I said, because of ignorance. Yeah.
But it's still because there's the wrongdoer and the wrongdoer and the wrongdoing. So you have to still, in this case, separate them and not say, okay, it's an addict, I help. You still have to separate and not condemn, but you don't have to accept the wrongdoing, just you help the person.
Yeah.
But you don't let them, not get away with it, but make yourself suffer repeatedly from what they're doing. You just support the person.
That's what I was saying yesterday when I was explaining the differences between loving kindness and attachment. When you develop loving kindness and compassion, you help wholeheartedly, you help others wholeheartedly, but you maintain a distance. So that in the process of helping others, you yourself doesn't become a victim. You see? So this is true in all kind of human relationships. The famous Indian teacher who visited Tibet, Kamal Shil, he has composed this book called Stages of Meditation. In that book he says, when it comes to making relationship with other people, it should be like your relationship with the fire. If you go too close to the fire, and indeed if you try to touch the fire, it will burn you. So stay a little bit away from, but not too far, because if you stay too far, you will not get the warmth of the fire. You see? So in human relationship also it should be like that. Okay. Good news. You know the rest, huh? Lunch break is good news.